Um, I'm semi-retired. I have an agent who sends me out every now and then, but I do about maybe 2 or 3 films a year. I'm coming here though in June. With Jackie and I made a film on Morocco, so we'll be showing that in Clubhouse 3. Speaking of that, it was fun to be with Jackie because she was a big help in the picture. And we were down in the desert, true story. Down in the desert, and this guy, Arab, came up and said, he was looking at Jackie, and he said, in very broken English, that he would give me 12 camels. So camels were going at about 20,000 in those days. And I was thinking, wow. And I almost said, drop a line when you have time, honey. But I said no, and she got angry because I took too long saying no even. So anyway, you'll see it, and that particular episode is in the film on Morocco. Mainly this film on Dracula was mainly for the filmmakers, because this film was shot. For any of you long-time users of cameras will remember the High 8. This was the first High 8 picture I made, and before that, to give you a background a little bit on what we do, what we have been doing. Our group of filmmakers, it's called the TRACS, stands for Travel Adventure Cinema Society. And now we have probably maybe 20 filmmakers. And when I first joined, we had probably almost 100. But time has worn, and so has the people who you're our age and are disappearing from the seats at Clubhouse 3, as you know. When I first came to Leisure World, it was Leisure World, we had 4 film series. There were 2, I should say 3 film series. One at Clubhouse 3, 2 of them at Clubhouse 3. I come back. They were 2 clubs, and the third one was the Leisure World itself, and the entertainment side or whatever. Now we're lucky to have 1, and we're getting, unfortunately, going downhill. But it first started, Travel Films was made, the first one was shown in Chicago in the 1896 or 97 by a fellow by the name of Burton Holmes. Maybe some of you remember Burton Holmes. He was around for years. He made $1 million on Travel Films. The rest of us just envy him. And Burton Holmes had got a camera from France, and he made this picture. And it would lasted, each reel would last 45 seconds. You have to change the reel and put it on again. And anyway, down through the years, other people came involved, all the names like Admiral Byrd and Lowell Thomas, those kind of folks, and just a plain common filmmaker. So we were all using film. When I got into it back in the 70s, film was the only thing. Video wasn't even around. We knew about it anyway. And film was, for our end, the low end of filmmaking. And by the way, we all wanted to do something rather than go to Hollywood. We didn't want to have one part, maybe directing, or one filmmaking, or at the camera, or script writing. We wanted to do everything, and that's what we did. We do the film, we edit, we do the narration, we write the script, do the narration live. Now, today we've changed over a little bit with DVDs and everything. Many of us put the narration on that and sit down with the rest of the audience. But in the old days, we had to learn these. If you were putting out 10 films, you had to know narrations for an hour-and-a-half picture, 10 of them. And I remember not more than once I would get up, start speaking about the wrong film, and they'd say, I could hear cries, Yeah. And so, anyway, that's all gone now. High Eight, High Eight was my first film, and it was so much fun, because in the old, going back again to the film days, we had tape recorders. We didn't have sound on film. We had tape recorders there, and tried to get it to sync, but when you went to different auditoriums, the power was different. So maybe you had a guy saying something in English to you, and he's gone, and then you suddenly hear his voice because we were running behind. So those things are gone now, and it was so much fun to be able to record actual narration and also interviews with microphones, because they never did that before, unless you had a lot of money, and we didn't have that much money going around to. Although we did have, we had about, I would think we had more than 200 venues around the United States and Canada, including National Geographic. And I was there a couple times with my shows. So we had some really good venues, but most of those are gone. Even National Geographic doesn't have live filmmakers anymore. Anyway, let's get back to Dracula here. This is part of a film I made called The Mystery Tales of Europe. So I figured out the first three. I wanted to go across the continent. Started at England with the two little princes in the Tower of London. They disappeared. Am I okay? Then we went to Germany and did Mad King Ludwig and his mysterious death. And the third was over in Vienna, the Vienna Woods and Meyerling, and what happened to Prince Rudolph, the Crown Prince. Murder, or was it suicide? So I had one more place to go, and I couldn't figure it out. I said, Romania. I knew a little about Dracula, but I knew there was supposed to be a real Dracula. So I wanted to find if there really was a Dracula. So I went to Romania and met a young man you see here. He was the president of the Transylvanian Society of Dracula. Now, when I got involved in this, I thought, my gosh, there are going to be a lot of crazy kids, and they're going to run around and everything. The Transylvanian Society was filled with doctorates. They were excuse me. They were pursuing folklore subjects, and literature, religion. In fact, one of the first ones you see interviewed here was a PhD, a teacher, a professor up at the University of California in Santa Barbara. So that was amazing to me to have all that. And then the guys told me, they said, next year, this was 1996, they said, next year, they're going to be the 100th anniversary of the book on Dracula, the first book. And so I said, wow. And they said, there's going to be a big meeting in Los Angeles at the airport. People are coming from all over the world, especially Japanese. They love Dracula, and they're coming over by the train loads, or the boat loads, or plane loads. So I said, gosh, I could make money with DVDs. Finally get in a big time here with money, I did. So that didn't quite happen, of course. But anyway, that's why I have these shirts left over from my convention. And by the way, you see the, sorry about that. You see the blood running down here. This was from my film. This is before computers. I wasn't using a computer in those days. So I had to hand draw the blood dropping down, stopping the camera, so the blood would, you'll see it here on the film. So anyway, I'm getting to the end of all this, and I don't know if there's anything more. But if you have questions, wait till after the picture. Are we all set up? We will be. I can talk some more if you want. I'll be commenting as we go along here. If fact, I'll have to move out a little bit so I can see it. There it is. See the blood? Can we get those lights back there? Sorry, you're doing all the work. You have it on the we're telling a beginning of the, there you go.
The author was an Irishman, Bram Stoker, who managed a successful theater in London. Ironically, he died in Naples at 12. The birth of Dracula spawned a still-growing industry of books, plays, and films about the dreaded Count and all the other vampire wannabes. Translated into many languages, the story has attracted fervent fans across the world.
I was interested in the film Draculas.
The earliest surviving film on Dracula, Nosferatu, produced in Germany in 1922, depicts the Dracula character as a grotesque, rodent-like figure.
Is this? Can you see this all right? Is it?
Started in 1931 Hollywood classic, first talking Dracula. I am Dracula. Lucy's only color film was the 1947 Scared to Death, and he wasn't afraid to spoof his Dracula character, as shown here with Betty Boop.
Remember Betty Boop?
Humani, the Hungarian-born actor, personified mystery and evil. After the original success of Dracula, he played in a variety of horror and mystery films, quite often as a vampire. Hollywood would eventually drop him, however, and he died lonely and abandoned in 1956. Study of Dracula on a historical and cultural level has expanded in recent years, led in part by the Transylvanian Society of Dracula. I asked society experts about Dracula's popularity and are there such things as vampires?
The current interest in Dracula and in vampires has been building throughout this century. The novel Dracula has never been out of print during this time. And there's been a wave of interest that has constantly been there for Dracula and vampires. We noticed it building in the 1970s, but then in the 1990s with the very successful novels by people like Anne Rice, Chelsea Quinn Yarborough, and Fred Saberhagen, the interest has picked up, and it seems somewhat related both to the changes in the mass culture and into the interest in AIDS that has been so important part of our life in the last generation. I don't believe in vampires in the traditional supernatural sense of them. I don't think that there are revenants walking around biting people on the neck. But there certainly are people who drink blood, either in a few cases as a violent criminal activity, and in the larger number of cases just as a kinky aspect to an otherwise normal life. And then there's a tremendous number of people who would like to be vampires. But even though they try to adopt some of the accoutrements thereof.
The Canadian chapter president.
Do I believe in vampires? Well, it depends on what you mean by a vampire. If you're referring to the supernatural creature that shapeshifts, and that turns into a bat, and that lives forever, no, I honestly must say I don't believe in vampires. But if you think of a vampire as a fictional construct, in a fictional reality, then of course there are vampires. Every time you pick up a vampire novel and read it, there's a vampire, and he comes alive or undead or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, there are the vampires, people who live the vampiric lifestyle. Of course, they exist. So it depends. It's a matter of definition. And I think that, well, my interest in Dracula and his popularity is mainly connected with the novel itself and the many reasons why the novel has retained its popularity. I think part of it is because it appeals to such a cross-section of people. Folklorists are interested in it. Literary scholars are interested in it. Filmmakers, of course, are interested in it. The novel itself speaks to many different readers in many different ways. Some see it as just a horror story and an exciting adventure of the supernatural. Others see it as a commentary on Victorian England in the 1890s. Others see it as a commentary on the world of the 1990s. So I think the popularity of Dracula is that it's a sufficiently versatile novel in terms of interpretation and adaptation that it has survived for this great length of time.
We have encountered the fictional Dracula, but what about the historical one? Well, for that we would have to journey to Romania, a former communist country in the old Eastern Bloc. Romania's capital of Bucharesti, as it is called here, is a city of 2 million, once known as the Paris of the East. The monstrous 1,100-room House of the Republic, one of the largest structures in the world, dominates the city skyline. The building was the megalomaniac dream of the late communist dictator Nicolae Ceausescu. Today it houses the Romanian Parliament and international conferences. We're told Ceausescu really loved his fountains.
We had to put something in for the travelogue people. This is not a documentary, true documentary, because you got people
The
and
people
parks.
of Romania are a delightful ethnic mix, showcased in one of Bucharest's largest parks. And these fellows take their games quite serious. President of the Transylvanian Society of Dracula, Nicolae Padarau, offered to guide my search for the Romanian Dracula. We headed north toward Transylvania, where the historical count was born. Transylvania, by the way, is Latin for land beyond the forest. We passed through fertile farmland to the birthplace of Vlad Tepes, the old German town of Strasbourg, today known as Sighișoara. The old town, or citadel of Sighișoara, is said to be the best preserved medieval town in all of Europe, with its thick defensive walls, spires, and narrow cobblestone streets. Originally a Roman garrison town, it later grew fat off trade with Moldavia and Wallachia. Through the years, Transylvania has been contested by both Hungary and Romania. Its population today is a jigsaw mix of Romanians, Magyars, Gypsies, Germans, and others. Dracula's father, known as Vlad Dracul, commanded a small garrison here in the 15th century. He won the name Dracul when the German emperor made him a knight in the Order of the Dragon, or Dracul in Romanian. Thus little Vlad became Dracula, son of Dracul. Dracul also means devil in Romanian. Vlad was born in this building, now a restaurant, about the year 1431. A rare portrait of Vlad's father has been uncovered on the restaurant's second floor. The town's museum shows a richly detailed how-to book on the art of torture written in German. It was something Vlad Dracul's son would also learn to perfection and earn him the name of Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Tepes. Invading Turks would also learn to respect his courage, cunning, and cruelty. Vlad Dracula was reputed to occasionally dine among his victims. Victims impaled alive on sharp stakes. When Dracula eventually came to power as ruler of Wallachia, he established his princely court at Dragobista. It was here that he earned his reputation as the Impaler. Many of his victims, conservatively said at 40,000, died in and around his palace. There was also another side to this strange man. A Romanian patriot as well as a cunning Machiavelli, he used torture as a weapon of psychological warfare.
This thunderstorm happened right that night when I was filming these people.
Dragobista recently celebrated its 600th birthday with a pageant showing the spirits of some of Dracula's victims floating surrealistically among the palace ruins. Two impaled victims add realism as Vlad Dracula arise for a picnic at their feet.
As one great Romanian said at the mission Bălăceanu Stolnici, he may have been bad in many points, but at the time, in the 15th century, Romania was threatened by three big empires, each of them with their expansionist programs. And so, for whatever he is, or whatever he was, this Vlad the Impaler Dracula, with all his many acts of cruelty, he kept this country independent. And what is even more important, that today, when we speak about him, Romania is in the same position, surrounded by other empires, also with expansionist programs, needing also other Vlad the Impalers to keep it independent.
The star of the pageant is, of course, Vlad Dracula himself, played with great gusto by a Romanian actor.
Desfundate și privilegioase, ale unei armate flământe și îndepărtată. Așa, copii, faceți haos, copii, să bați prăpastia!
On his way to meet Dracula, Parker passed farm carts and homeward-bound peasants. And there rose mighty slopes of forest up to the lofty steeps of the Carpathians themselves. Yes, we are in Dracula country now. What we actually found was a rather forbidding castle-like tourist hotel, not ruined at all. Hotel Castle Dracula looks like a castle in many ways. It was built for Dracula fans, of course, as well as winter sports enthusiasts. Tonight I'm to be inducted into the Transylvanian Society of Dracula. The sunset is a great backdrop for the ceremony. President Patarau was assisted by 3 handmaidens, waitresses in disguise.
Welcome in the Transylvanian Society of Dracula. That's congratulations.
Great fun. Afterward, I'm taken to the spooky castle cellars to determine if the Count is really sleeping in that night. I shot this in my corridor in my home, this part.
There is only one way
And guess who you'll find in
to
the
find
coffin?
out whether the Count is at the castle or in his beloved London. Only one way.
He looks a little familiar, doesn't he? I thought he looked kind of familiar. That's about the end of Dracula, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. I want to tell you that the coffin scene was shot in my living room because actually there was a bellboy in the coffin and I didn't like that. So I had a great idea of putting myself in a coffin that I got from a stationery store, cardboard, with a pillow. And if you're already believing that it's going to be a coffin, it is a coffin. So that's the nice thing about that. When I see this film, I see so many mistakes. But this was a few years ago using a different kind of my first time in hiding. My first really good video. Pardon? No, it was a high 8. It was a Sony Pro outfit, and it was very complicated. No, I could have done better with Casablanca. Any questions? You all want to join the club or something? Sir?
How to handle music?
I'm sorry?
The music of the film?
Yeah, the music is, I've always belonged to a library of unlicensed unlicensed music, and we had to pay a yearly fee, but that expired a few years ago, and I keep using it. But no one's going to catch me, I guess. Anything else? Okay. Oh wait. Yes.
Well, from watching that, that's great, because, I've always taken photos and put them in slideshows. I never thought about doing videos and putting them together, because that gives it, more depth.
And video is so easy to do these days, and those cameras that you can hold in your hand. I have a small high-def camera that I was telling Mike a while ago. It just fits in my hand, and it gives me better pictures than my professional. And you can edit easily at high def.
What kind of camera is it?
Pardon?
What brand of camera?
I got a Canon. I have forgotten the number of it now. It's, as everybody says,
there's no viewfinder. No viewfinders. There are them around, but I think Sony made one about the same price. Okay, are we all through?
Who shot you? Did you?
Oh, I just shot myself in the foot. No. No, I just turned it on and got in. Had to do it about 3 or 4 times until I got it right.
Are most of your shots on a tripod or handheld?
Mostly on a tripod. There's a couple in there, probably not. In fact, some of the places I put some of the people, that one lady in front of a palm tree, I killed myself every time I saw that. Yes, not very good. Okay.
Did you write this? Did you have a script? Did you know what you would?
Yeah, I wrote it before. I filmed to my script, edited to my script, then refined it a little bit. But that's the way I still do. I get an idea, outline what I'm going to do.
This was the
That's very nice, thank you.
Hal,
Sir.
how long was the trip over in Romania?
Romania, about, I guess almost a month. But if I hadn't had Nikki Potter